have this u which is calculated based on your mean diameter, okay, about the mean diameter. So you don't have any outermost tangential velocity or the outer velocity at the tip and velocity at the hub. You will be having a single tangential velocity which is called as u. And also, see, we have this flow component. What is this? A component of velocity which is maybe call it as it's a the vertical your axial flow, maybe your absolute velocity. So it is v1 sine alpha, because alpha being the angle with which the flow enters the turbo machine. So if there are no losses, that means that there are, see, the fluid enters at that particular thing, absolute velocity. You may be having, sometimes you may be tangential velocity, you will be having VW1, or sometimes VW1 may be 0. But your flow, if it is, there are no losses, means the flow simply will just slip on your aerofoil or your vane. So with that condition, we clearly tell that your VF1 and VF2 both are same. See, when I come to axial flow machines, we try to combine and write a velocity triangle. We call that as a combined velocity triangle. See, the velocity triangle can be combined and written based on two things. Either with the common base. The common base means you have your u, that is your tangential velocity, which is common, or you can have the common apex. I think some of your Govinda Gowda book you can see with the common apex. But usually, most of the times we go with the common base actually. So u being common. Now, as I clearly told that, see, your turbo machine, if it's a turbine, the fluid will be from your maybe high pressure side to low pressure side. But in case of a compressor, the fluid will be flowing from lower pressure side to high pressure. So that should be there in your mind when I draw the aerofoil in a couple of classes, maybe 2-3 classes back. So when I was discussing on the velocity triangle, with that as an intention, so direction of flow is in decreasing the turbine and increasing the pressure in case of compressor. So with that in my mind, so if I try to write the velocity triangle for a turbine, say I will try to put it like this. So for a compressor, I will go with this in this direction, and if I for a turbine, I will go in this direction. So I should be very clear in which direction I am trying to put it. So now I put a combined velocity triangle here. Okay, I put a combined velocity triangle here, which clearly shows me if my V being absolute inlet and U being the common tangential velocity for both. That means it's same actually. Then we have VR1, which is the relative velocity at the inlet. Then similarly, see here, if you look at it actually, what will be VR2? VR2 is one component, and whenever my VW is equal to 0 at the exit, that is VW2 is equal to 0. So your absolute velocity component or flow component will be the same. Two is equal to VF2. In that case, what I'm going to get actually, I'll be getting a right angle triangle. See, V is equal to 0. This is a simple thumb rule if you have to always remember. The same rule can be applied for compressor water. See, this is V2 is equal to VF2 and my VW2 is equal to 0. Okay, this is my U, this is in this direction, and this is my VR2. What I'm getting a what is called as a right angle triangle. So whenever I'm dealing with, it can be at the inlet or it can be at the exit, doesn't matter. Fine. Whenever my VWs or your whirl velocities is 0, I will end up with a simple right angle triangle. What does it indicate? It indicates, see, the size of the triangle. See, the size of the triangle clearly indicates what the energy available over there. Okay. Now, if you look at this velocity triangle and write for the using trigonometric principles, sine alpha 1 is equal to your opposite side divided by adjacent. That is VF1 by V1. Or now VF1 and VF2 both are same. Look at this. I have gone with an assumption VF1 is equal to VF2, which is equal to VF. I can write, and here what's happening in this case of whenever my VW2 is equal to 0, that means my exit roll velocity is equal to 0. When I speak like this, my exit velocity is equal to 0, my Vf2 will be is equal to V2. What I will write actually, in place of Vf2, in place of Vf2, sorry, in place of Vf1, I'll write Vf2, and Vf2 is equal to V2. So I'm going to replace this Vf1 by V2. Are you getting? So Vf1 is replaced by Vf2, then Vf2 is replaced by V2. Okay. Now a little bit of cross multiplication if I do, V2 is equal to V1 sin alpha. And we know from trigonometric principles that sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. So this you might have done in your plus 1 or plus 2. So here only thing is angle being alpha, I can write it as sin square alpha 1 plus cos square alpha 1 is equal to, where I can apply, this can be applied only for a right angle triangle. Fine. Now, what is this actually? Whatever we know actually, the epsilon max. Epsilon max is what actually? It is the optimal value. See, this is your optimal value for a minimum value of V2. See, epsilon max I am going to get for a minimum value of V2. V2 is minimum. When I am going to get a V2 minimum? When my VW, so that means I am going to, as yesterday I showed that V2 is pulled in such a way that I am going to make it minimum. So when it will be minimum, when V2 is equal to Vf2, so for that condition, my VW2 is equal to 0. That is the exit value is equal to 0. So I am going to substitute for V2. So V2 minimum at that condition is equal to alpha 1. So a little bit of simplification and removing some of the terms, whatever is common in numerator and denominator, I will end up with, for an axial flow machine, I will get your epsilon max is equal to cos square alpha 1 divided by 1 minus r sin square alpha. I think usually they ask this kind of a derivation. Show that the optimum utilization factor or the maximum utilization factor for an axial flow machine is cos square alpha 1 divided by 1 minus r sin square alpha, or show that your optimal utilization factor is a function of your R, that is degree of reaction, and your flow angle alpha. Fine. Now, let us take for an impulse machine what will happen. If I take the same thing, even for the axial flow machine, even an axial flow machine is impulse case. Then that case, R is equal to 0. So I will take this expression, if I call this as some expression number 1, I'll take equation number 1, I'm going to substitute the value of R is equal to 0. If I put my R is equal to 0, what will happen? I'm going to get epsilon max, or the optimal value or the maximum value of your epsilon max becomes only a function of cos square or alpha. Or its epsilon max is equal to cos square alpha 1. Or I can clearly tell your utilization factor is directly proportional to your alpha 1. So I will get for a given alpha 1. So if alpha 1, if alpha 1 is 20 to 30, if I increase, then automatically that number also will increase. And you have to be very careful here. Is it possible for me to have alpha 1 is equal to 90 or 200? You just put that. So cos square alpha 1 of 200 you put it. So what will happen? So R1, 180 and all. If you put it, actually I end up with some other values. Okay. So cos square of maybe some, if I put around 155 degrees, I'll end up with some kind of an error. So what we have to do, I have to put a number between 0 and 90. If I put cos 90, fine. Cos 90, if I put what I have done, I'll be getting a number 0. If I put cos 0, fine, I'll get a number 1. So your value of your, so cos square alpha, whatever, so your alpha should be a number between your 0 and 90. So that means your alpha should be always an acute angle. Your alpha is always an acute angle. So actually in a regular course, I have given an assignment where they have to plot this, take this equation for a given value of alpha, try to plot it as a function of alpha 1. I have given that as an assignment. So maybe this during the first time we don't have, because that has given us a self-study kind of thing. I'm not giving that. Now, see, as I told that you have degree of reaction number from 0 to 1. So what will happen if it is 0.5 or half? So I will take the equation 1. I'll try to substitute R is equal to half. So then your epsilon max equation, this equation, whatever I have, is equal to cos square per alpha 1 divided by 1 minus half into sin square alpha. If I simplify, I will end up with this form. How is it actually? You have 2 cos square alpha 1 divided by 2 minus sin square alpha 1. So you know that sin square alpha 1 plus cos square alpha 1 is equal to 1. So what I have done is actually this 2, I made it 1 plus 1. So then 1 minus sin square alpha I am writing in terms. So I want to get all the things in terms of cosine. So epsilon max is equal to 2 cos square alpha 1 divided by 1 plus cos square alpha 1. So what is it actually? For a degree of reaction 0.5, it is once again function of alpha 1. But the equation is different. So for r is equal to 0, it was only cos square alpha 1. And for r is equal to 0.5, 2 cos square alpha 1 divided by 1 plus cos square alpha 1. So both the derivations, you can simply do it actually. So for any value other than 0 to 1, I can substitute. That may be one of the numerical. Take the expression, regular expression, maximum this thing. Put r is equal to 0.6. You may end up with, for a given alpha, you'll be able to get the alpha. What I want is actually, for different values of r, so you can do this exercise and cross check. What will happen? Say if I put alpha, so it's not alpha max. Alpha max maybe it may be a number for at a given, say for a given alpha. Say when I have my alpha, so this is where your alpha varying from 0 to some 90 degrees or whatever it may be maximum. You vary in terms of 5 degrees or 10 degrees. And you try to vary your r is equal to 0, r is equal to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, at least 3 to 4 k. You can write a simple code, a MATLAB code or a Python code, or you can do in your maybe Excel sheet also. Then try to plot it. When I try to plot it, I'll see this kind of curves. So what is the advantage of this particular curve? So when I try to have this kind of a curve, I can easily find out, see, so at any given value of alpha, draw a vertical line and I'll be able to easily predict what is my maximum utilization factor. This becomes some kind of a design point for us. What should be my flow angle? If I reduce my flow angle, what will happen? There is a reduction. So there will be an increase in my epsilon max. With an increase in my alpha, there is a reduction. So if I try to have more alpha, that's why optimum value of alpha is very important. So when we won't go alpha, we won't put it as 60 degrees, 70 degrees. We try to keep it alpha is around maybe 5 degrees, 10 degrees, around 10 or 20 degrees. So because at lower alpha value or at lower flow inlet, I will see your utilization of your energies at the higher point. I'll be getting a epsilon towards max, and if I try to have more alpha, that is a higher flow angle, my R with an whatever with a given R. So, but still, I'll be getting a utilization factor to be a lower number. So this I can verify for a radial flow machine. This I can get it verify for any kind of an axial flow machine for different values of degree of reaction. If R is equal to 0, it's an impulse machine. If R is equal to 0.5 or 0.6, it is for any kind of your what we call it as reaction. Is that clear? No. Fine. That's about your axial flow machine. Now, if you come to radial flow machines, see, in case of a radial flow machine, what we have actually, your U1 and U2 both are different. Why it is so? Because I don't have any mean diameter. I'll be having, see, your wheel is such a way that you do have some diameter, you do have a tip diameter. So I've written a velocity triangle for this. So velocity triangle is, I do have V1, I have VF1, I have VW1, and I have U1. So this is my U1. See, this is my U1. So that is your, so this is my U1. Okay, then I have my VR1. See, now what I did actually, I want to make it minimal. So VR is made minimal. So if I want to make VR to be minimal, I need to have it vertical exactly. For this case also, my BW2 is equal to 0. For this case also my VW2 is equal to 0. Fine. When my VW2 is equal to 0, what does it indicate? It indicates my flow velocity and your exit absolute velocity both are same. And VR2 is at a maximum number. Okay. Now, see the expressions, the velocity, whatever we got. See, we got epsilon max. I can derive it again, or I can trace it. It's the same expression. Epsilon max, I'm going to get the same expression. The only difference is actually there it is U1 and U2. So, but in case of, see, U epsilon is equal to V1, I don't have any U over there. So, V1 square minus V2 square divided by V1 square minus R into V2 square. So, I'm just substituting for V2 and R for different values. So, your epsilon max will be the same, and for R is equal to any number. So, whatever the formula we derived for an axial flow machine holds good. Same expression can be derived again. So, just look into the same expressions, you can do it. But one thing is very important when I am dealing with radial flow machines, that we call it as specific speed or speed ratio. Speed ratio. So, it's not specific speed, it's a speed ratio. What is it actually? See, whenever I have a machine, see, even the same can be hold good for your axial flow machine also. So, what is this actual speed ratio? See, the blade will be rotating, or your turbine or rotor will be rotating at some velocity, we call it as u. And try to build a relationship between your rotational speed or your peripheral speed of your turbo machine to your velocity of the flow or absolute velocity. If I try to take the ratio of it, try to build a relationship with it. So, how much of your energy V1 I'm able to see it on my machine. If this ratio is 0.7, if this ratio is 0.6, so trying to show some kind of relationship between your U and V. And it also, if you go and look at it in your first chapter or your module 1, we had a thing, what is called as what is it actually? Phi 1, it is U by V1. What type of coefficient it is? It is a flow coefficient or head coefficient? It is a flow coefficient. So you have flow coefficient, you have head coefficient, you have discharge coefficient. So this kind of relationship between your U and V, I can compare with the coefficient what we derived in the non-dimensional form. Now, if I want to take the expression for speed ratio, what I'm going to take actually, I'm going to take your work done or actual work done expression in terms of alternate form. So, if I take it for your turbine, it is V1 square minus V2 square by 2 plus U1 square minus U2 square by 2 plus VR2 square minus VR1 square by 2. Or I can equate it to VW1 minus VW2 minus VW2 into U2. So now what I'm going to do actually, already you know that degree of reaction. What is degree of reaction? It is the ratio of your static energy, what you are going to lose, or static energy enthalpy drop to isentropic enthalpy or total enthalpy drop. So here static, if I try to do simplification, so this is your static component. I already have told this is your static component. Okay, this is your kinetic energy. I am trying to relate between your static component and your kinetic energy component multiplied by degree of reaction. Once you have this, substitute for this particular quantity, whatever I written in the flower bracket, with your, so I'm trying to replace your static component with the equivalent kinetic energy component and simplify it. If I try to simplify, so what I'm going to get actually, I'm going to get your actual work in terms of your kinetic energy component. I'm trying to equate to your VW1 into U1 minus VW2 into U2. And I told that for maximum utilization, for maximum utilization factor, your V2 should be minimum. When my V2 is minimum, your VW2 should be 0. So when my VW2 is equal to 0, your alpha at the exit, that means your flow is exactly radial. That means that I don't have any tangential component at the exit. Flow component, that means the flow, for the fluid flow. So no whirl component or no tangential component. So with that condition, I'm writing this as V1 square minus V2 square by 2 into 1 minus R. That's a simplification is equal to VW1 into U1. Or I want the value of your U1. I want in terms of U1. So U1 I can write it as V1 square minus V2 square by 2 into 1 minus R into VW1. Or further simplification, I can take my V1 outside, V1 square outside. So this will become 1 minus V2 square by V1 square divided by 2 into 1 minus R into VW1. I'm calling that as equation number 3. Okay, I'm calling that as equation number 3. Now let us substitute for phi. What is phi? Already we have defined. Phi is the ratio of your tangential component of velocity to your absolute component, that is u by v1. Okay, I will substitute for u1. See, this is my u1, or this is 1 over here, and v1 I will write it as it is. So what is my u1? v1 square into 1 minus v2 square by v1 square divided by 2 into 1 minus r into vw1 into v1. So for the simplification, simple simplification, all those things, if you do it, they're all simple mathematicals. If you do, maybe some of the things you try to bring in and bring out, and already we know that VW1 is equal to V1 sin, V2 is equal to V1 sin alpha, and VW1 is equal to V1 cos alpha. All the things if you try to do, I will try to get an expression for your speed ratio in terms of alpha 1 and R. Okay, alpha 1 and R. So what was the expression for your epsilon? It was in terms of cos alpha. So 2 cos square alpha divided by 1 plus. So if you look at the previous expression, whatever we had, no? So that expression, if you look at it, you had the expression for epsilon. Fine. Epsilon, if you look at it, it is 2 cos square alpha 1 divided by 1 plus cos square alpha 1. So this was the expression for epsilon max. Now what is the expression we are getting for the phi? Phi is equal to cos alpha 1 divided by 2 into 1 minus r. So when you have this both the expressions, so I can plot it. If you want to check this, so use for, see, alpha 1 is the same. If you want, you can use a Microsoft Excel or write a code. Take this for given value of alpha 1 or for a given value of r, you try to plot it and try to superimpose your speed ratio curve and your rotation curve. You will see something like this. Okay, you will see something like this. Both are not parallel. Don't think that both are parallel, but it will be something like this. For any given value of r, see, you check for r is equal to some 0.1. For r is equal to 0.1, you try to plot epsilon and phi. And for r is equal to 0.2, you try to plot epsilon and phi. And you can cross verify and cross check it. So whatever the value you are going to get there in the curve, that can be verified as a case. What is it? Put r is equal to 0. So if I put r is equal to 0, what I'm going to get? It will be simply cos alpha by 2. Okay, so phi is equal to cos alpha by 2, which is equal to u by v1. Or I can simplify it. If I put r is equal to half, so what I'm going to get actually, it will be simply cos alpha, because here if you go and look at it, 1 minus half is equal to half multiplied by 2 is 1, so it will be cos alpha 1. So for r is equal to 0, it is cos alpha 1 by 2. For r is equal to half, it is cos alpha 1. So for any other number between 0 and 1, I can put it and check it. Say r is equal to 0.6. Let me put r is equal to 0.6. So 0.4 into 2, it is 0.8. So cos alpha 1 by 0.8. So all these numbers can be verified by putting in Excel. So you'll get an idea what's happening over there, why I have to plot it. So by plotting it, you can try to, so for what value of alpha 1 or for what flow angle, I'll be able to see my maximum utilization of your turbo machine. So that's the beauty of these expressions. Okay. So what I have done is I have made a simple table. So simple table, you can just go through that particular, whatever the derivations I have done, for that derivation I put it over, just cross check, that's it.